Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
This is blasphemy. This is madness. This is the booth.
Staring down, looking at the blood-stained concrete. You're the dead MC, flying at my feet. You took a 9mm rhyme straight to your mind. Damn, my better split. This is my time, so I make my way up the block. Get to home base and lock that up. Crack the Cavassier and grab the phone. Call one of my troops up. Hope the soldiers on me says, yo, what's up, what's going on? Make it quick, cause I'm trying to get my Stellar on. Nigga, your girl, I'm in it. These lyrical assassins tried to pull a hit, and then boom, came a noise from the other room. It was the boys in blue with the SWAT crew. They got us locked up for lyrical murder. It's one of them charges that you never heard of. It's the booth. The booth. The booth. The booth. Yeah, it's the booth. The booth. The booth. Yeah, we're killing all your podcasts like the HIV virus. You want to battle this kid? Huh, don't even try this. Back the up, think again, count to 10. You want to grab that mic just to get done in? It's the booth. The booth. The booth. The booth. Yeah, it's the booth. The booth. The booth. The booth. Yeah, it's the booth.
Was he African?
African.
No. He was American, and he was like you. He looked just like you.
He was Jewish.
Just like you.
Okay, Jew.
Okay.
It's an odd crime for a Jew to commit.
Yeah, pretty docile.
Okay, so we have an African Jew wearing a hoodie.
No, you don't.
No.
No, that's not what I said. Is that what you heard me say? I said he looked like you. Do you look like an African Jew?
No, I look like a cop.
Yeah.
He was Caucasian.
All right, your boy Sinister One broadcasting live from the City of Champions. You are listening to The Booth, and the first thing I have to say is it's November 7th, Election Day, all over the country. So, you know what? This is the time where if you spent since last September, if you spent all that time bitching and moaning about what's been going on in your city or town, and if you didn't vote at the last election, guess what? It's time to vote again. We're 1 year from last year's crazy presidential election. How fast that flew by. And we are here today. A lot of local elections got some big numbers showing up at the polls, hopefully today for some of these elections. I know Boston had a big election today. We had Tito Jackson taking on Marty Walsh. Marty Walsh has been there for that one term after Mayor Menino passed away. So we're expecting to see some numbers from that. And here in Brockton, we have Jimmy Pereira taking on Bill Carpenter. Oh my God, I had a brain fart there, and I know the guy. Bill Carpenter. For some reason, I was going to say Brian Carpenter, and my mind was elsewhere. But Bill Carpenter is running for re-election. It would be his third term if he gets his re-election. Jimmy Pereira is a young kid, 27 years old. A lot of people. He's got a nice little political resume. But again, a lot of the people that come out to vote are, I've always said this before. The elderly, when it's time to vote, it's one of the, and I hate to be mean, but it's true. The worst days of driving on the road for elderly: Sundays, Christmas Eve for Mass, and Election Day, because the elderly people come out to vote. One of the reasons why you will never ever see a law passed to retest people for driving at the age of 64 or higher, because nobody wants to commit that type of suicide as far as election goes. But you have anything important in your area today? Anything that you want to talk about for those who might be listening to you and your show area?
Nothing, no big races down in Florida this particular election. We're gearing up for some big ones next year. I've been watching the two big governor's races. There's a big congressional race in Utah to replace Chaffetz. And, of course, there's a New York City mayor, but I don't think that's going to be as big a surprise to a lot of people. So it's really, it's funny how the talking heads already start talking about what's the cliche? All politics are local, and I think that's what we've been seeing in the elections ever since the big election a year ago. As you pointed out, it's been a year, and a lot of people talking about things. So we've seen a lot of polls where communities that are not satisfied with President Trump are still voting for Republicans or otherwise because, let's face it, Trump is not on.
Oh. Hold on, I lost Robert here. I'm going to see what's going on. For some reason, his headset kicked out again. He's going to get his headset off, and I want to get him on because I know he was making a great point there. Rob, you back with us? Okay, okay. I lost you because you were making a good point. You were talking about how local politics this time around has gotten somewhat important in some of the key districts because of the people who are upset with Trump.
Well, that's right. And I think that what you see is when people are trying to understand the race of some of the special elections to fill congressional seats and some of the other races in various states, you don't see a correlation between the polls, specifically about people's unfavorable views of the president's performance in the year since the election, and their votes in the local races, because they're separating the two things. Donald Trump is not on the ballot anywhere today or throughout the past year since he won election. And so people are voting on their local interests. Who are the candidates? What are they going to do for them? Who's going to address the economic needs of the community? Who's going to address the other big priorities of the community? And this is not really a national referendum on the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. I think people don't like either one right now, and for good reason. So a lot of this is coming down to the local races and what's important in the community. So those of us watching from across the country aren't necessarily going to understand a lot of what's in these voters' minds, but I can tell you it's important to them, and it's the issues that are important in those local communities.
Yeah, it's funny. You make a great point about people getting involved. I just want to say something. I hope those who are getting involved are informed. We don't want a lot of people out there tonight going out there and making knee-jerk decisions. As we've seen last year, there are a lot of people who did go out and they voted for Trump, and then 6 months in, they were like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And it was like, well, how did you not expect this? He ran his whole campaign exactly the way that this White House is today. So for anyone to say, I never knew this was going to happen, look, you didn't obviously you weren't paying attention. So please, if you still haven't gone out to vote yet, if you're going out to vote, please make sure you're informed. My biggest thing is when you hear people say that they're heading to vote and they're still undecided. I mean, I've been involved with politics a long time. I'm always up on my politics, but the biggest gripe with me is people who are undecided just 2 or 3 days out from the polls. And I'm like, man, you got to really know who you're voting for before election day. You can't be undecided heading in 2 to 3 days, especially if it's a big vote like a presidential or something like today, such as like a mayor in Boston. You shouldn't be heading to the polls in Boston undecided for Tito Jackson or Marty Walsh. I mean, that's just crazy. Or like here we've got the city council race. We've got Jacob Taggart, who we've had on this show, and for the first time ever, I've come out and actually politically backed someone, only because I've known Jacob for a long time. I know the type of person he is, the type of cloth he comes from. So I came out and fully supported Jacob, in an open forum, which is something that I usually never do. But yeah, I think everybody needs to be informed. Vote correctly. Make sure you vote who you're voting for. And we do have some major elections where some people have stepped down. You have 2 people who announced, one gentleman, a senator, he had announced Flake. He announced that he was retiring, but the rumor was that he was going to lose that seat anyway. Now, if Ken was here, I would have asked Ken that. Was the truth is that those numbers that he was probably going to lose that seat regardless anyway?
Yeah, that's true, because Senator Flake was going to lose his primary race, and then there was also a concern that if he squeaked by the primary race, that he would actually lose the seat to a Democrat. And so the plan was to either force him out or to primary him for the Republicans to try to hold that seat, because right now they have a very slim majority in the Senate, although the electoral map this coming year, 2018, does not look good for Democrats because they have about 2 to 1, if not more, seats up for election than the Republicans do. So they're going to have to hold a lot of seats as well as pick up about 3 or 4 seats. So it's a really tough electoral map, but certainly neither party can afford to lose a seat that they have the ability to keep. So the issue with Senator Flake is he really was concerned about losing even in the primary. So the Republicans were scrambling to fix him. So the issue is now, who wins the primary? Now that he backs out, does the governor or some more establishment-leaning Republican win that primary so that they can hold the seat against a Democrat? Or do they elect somebody who's more of a Trump insurgent-style candidate and therefore risk losing the seat to a Democrat, much in the way that happened in Delaware, where Chris Coons, who I think has done a great job as a senator and I think is very popular in the state of Delaware right now, he wasn't expected to win, but the Republican congressman who was heavily favored to win the primary lost to the woman who claimed she was a witch, if you remember that.
Yes.
And so they lost that seat. That was supposed to be a Republican pickup.
Mm-hmm. They actually had a woman up here that ran that she was actually a Wiccan, and she was, I want to say it was either New Hampshire or Vermont. There was a woman who ran that platform, such as that. I got to give a shout out. We got a guy in the chat here, Bob Walker. Got to give him a shout out. Thanks for listening to us, and thanks for joining us in the chat. And we've got. Oh, hold on. I had someone who I thought wasn't going to call in, and telling me that I can actually give him a call now. And let me see. Let me see if I can call him right now. You still with me, Rob? R-Squared?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
I'm leaving the headset off right now, so I'll put it on if we feel it's worth the risk.
Okay, hold on. Let me give this guy a call. I'm going to actually call this guy right now. He's actually in rehearsal, and I'm going to be giving John David a call. So let me bring John David in here, and let me see if I actually have his regular number in this. And if so, while I'm trying to get John David in here, there were a couple other elections that they were keeping their eyes on across the country. We were talking about just before we went live. You were talking about Utah. You were talking about a couple places. While I try to get John in here, I'm going to let you talk about those elections across the country that are going to mean, some key points heading into these presidential elections in 3 years.
Yeah. So the issue there is in some of these races, now in the New Jersey governor's race, that's not considered as competitive. It's more of a Democratic state, and there's a fairly popular candidate there. So it's the margin of victory is the thing that's most up in the air. But again, it'll be due to a lot of local issues facing the state of New Jersey. Virginia, I think, is a bigger national bellwether because it's more of a purple state. They had a Republican governor last, then Governor McAuliffe, who just finished his terms. And so now it's you've got the lieutenant governor who's a Democrat versus Ed Gillespie, the former chair of the RNC. And Virginia, of course, so goes Virginia, so goes the nation in a lot of ways. It's been interesting to look at the polls coming out of Virginia. There's been a lot of scrutiny on Ed Gillespie for really going negative and playing the race card the last few weeks in a desperate attempt to close the gap. And it actually worked. He closed the gap. He's within the margin of error in the last couple of days, where he was down much bigger about a week or so ago. And what he was doing is he made it all about those Confederate monuments, the issue from Charlottesville. And he played Donald Trump's race game, talking about immigration and, appealing to white supremacists subtly, not directly, but doing it very similar to Donald Trump. And it worked. He closed the polls. And so he was running commercials about how he's going to make sure that they preserve all the monuments because of their history. And whereas the lieutenant governor Northam wants to get rid of them. Well, that's not Northam's policy. Northam says it should be a local decision. Each community decides for itself. That seems a very democratic and fair way to do it, that each community can make its own decisions rather than the state telling them what to do. But Gillespie's lying about that. And then the other big issue that's been there has been the gun issue. And while the nation looks at some of these recent shootings in New York and Texas and elsewhere, New York, but not a shooting, but, some of these incidents, and so they're lying about Northam's record on guns. Northam is a Virginia. He's not against guns. Guns are big in Virginia. That's the NRA's headquarters down there, and it's a very big gun culture state. And Northam is not against guns. He doesn't believe in taking away people's guns. He's a Second Amendment guy. He thinks we ought to fix the background check is his position, which I think is very popular across the nation. But they've been misleading it. And so you see gun owners in Virginia are going over 2-1 for Gillespie. and Northam is getting less than a third of the gun vote in Virginia of gun owners because they're single issue minded. Obviously, there are a lot of other issues that could be influencing people's vote, but the gun issue is sacrosanct in at least in Virginia, as it is in other places, Missouri and other states, where you've got to have a solid record on guns or you're never going to make it. So that's going to be an interesting issue. So again, it's a local issue. It has nothing to do with national politics. It has to do with some distortions, and we'll see where it leads. But right now, that looks like it's going to be one of the key issues that affects the outcome of the race.
Right, and we got Jon David joining us, and again, you know what? Jon David's joining us right now, but first of all, again, I dropped the ball. I actually should have started off the show. Again, last week we were on point. We gave our moment of silence just at the top of the show. But this is how crazy and how used to this it has become for us. Another week, another mass shooting. And again, usually when this happens, we usually give a moment of silence. And I don't mean that disrespect the show or disrespect those lives lost in Texas, but real quick, before we bring Jon David in, let's just take our quick 8-second moment of silence for those who lost their lives in the tragedy this weekend in Texas. Real quick. Hold on. God bless. All right, guys, man. And again, it just shows us how normal this has become in the last 5 years. And again, I feel always this has been not a gun issue, but a mental health issue. Anybody can spin it the way they want. At the end of the day, these people who do these mass shootings, with an exception of a few, majority of times these people are, they have their issues, and because of the programs that are being cut due to, not just President Trump, but for the last 10 years. These programs to help those with mental issues, including those coming back from the military, they're being cut left and right. So, I wish we could do something a lot better, so family members aren't trying to help these people out with their issues. And, there's just a lot of things, but we got Jon David. Jon David, what's going on, man?
I mean, I'm in rehearsal getting ready for the 17th. I'll be out there in Brockton, as you know. I say Brockton like how you say. November 17th, at least that's my best Brockton impersonations. Now,
hold on. You actually said it good, because I saw Ginuwine, and no, I'm not disrespecting Ginuwine, but he said Brocktown. Now, that was funny because he said it like that, but that's like an inside thing here in Brockton. We all call it Brocktown, or we call it Brock Vegas. So that was pretty cool when he did it. But again, we are so excited to see you, Shay Williams, and the R&B legend Ginuwine coming to town here on November 17th. Man, and here's the thing, R-Squared.
Yes.
I have a house full of girls tonight. Girls. Like, when I say a house full of girls, I'm probably going to say double-digit amount of women in this house tonight. And Jon David just sang to these women over FaceTime Live. And then it's just me and Marky and two little boys in the house. And we were left out.
Well, it sounds like you made their night, so way to go.
well, his wife said she's gonna cook for me, so that's.
Well, there you go. That's talk about sing for your supper, right?
Yeah,
I literally sang for my supper, so I'm looking forward to some of that good chicken Alfredo, Don. If you listening, chicken Alfredo and deep fried Oreos, and I ain't playing now.
And my wife makes a mean deep fried Oreo. I'll tell you. You know what love is when you go to the fair and you go and you see a deep fried Oreo at the fair and you pay like $6 for like 3 fried Oreos and you eat it, and then as you're walking through the fair, the wife says, I can make these. You know how easy it is, right? And then you say, really? Can you? And then you get home, and she gets out the deep fryer. She gets the fresh canola oil. We go to Shaw's. She grabs 4 packages of Oreos and then just deep fries those Oreos. And you only pay the $4 for the 4 packages of Oreos versus the 3 little Oreos. Oh, my God, with a glass of hot chocolate, oh, my Lord.
Look. I'm already sold, man. What are you doing right now? I can't get that right now, man. Like, why you torturing me? Why?
Or what you do is you layer the bowl with the deep fried Oreos, and then you put ice cream on the top of it with some whipped cream.
Nice.
See, now I thought we were friends. You know what I'm saying? Smiling in your face, backstabbers. That's how I feel right now. That's how I feel.
So, John David's on the show tonight. He's actually in rehearsal right now. So this is a special call for us. And like I said, you know, we've been working together with Daryl Concrete Wright over there at Concrete Entertainment Promotions. And, you know, originally this show was scheduled to be Drew Hill. And originally, right off the bat, you know, I said to Daryl, I said, hey, you got an opener? And he's like, no, not yet. He's like, this is just in its infant stages. I said, hey, I got a guy. He's like, really? And I said, you know, I actually had two people. I had you and Louis Bello, and Louis Bello is in Nashville this week. So when I said okay, I couldn't get Louis Bello either, I said, let me make sure that I can get my man John, see if he could come down. And you were like, tell him what you said. You was like, what? And then when the things went the way they did, and then I told you Ginuwine, you was like, oh man, this is even better.
Count me in. That's before you even told me anything of numbers, dates. I said, count me in. Just count me in. One sentence, if you call me, you already know that's money. So that's already good money. And then two, you said Drew Hill, and I was like, down. Then you said Ginuwine. I said, definitely down. Because the first song I ever sang to a girl was So Anxious. So, you know what I mean? Like that means something to me. But I get to share the same stage as the legend himself. So, you know what I mean? And I'm gonna bring it. We're working on the set right now. It's, you know, I'm doing 25 minutes, and it's gonna be, and we gonna rock it out.
Oh damn, you're doing 25? Oh man.
I'm doing, yeah.
Oh man, this is gonna be. Oh man, this is gonna be a good night. You know, tickets are still available. $75 VIP. General admission, I forget the price, but you want to jump on the Facebook page and get that general admission price. I'm going to say, and I should know this, I'm going to say 35. It may be the price. Just please double check. But I do know that the VIPs are $75, and I believe that's going to get you the meet and greet and a meal, and you're going to get to see Shay Williams, who her videos have been being posted on this event. And look, we got Ginuwine. You don't have to talk about Ginuwine. TGT, all the hits he's had. And RSQUARED, did you ever ask the kids in your school if they knew Ginuwine yet?
I haven't been back to class since our last show because we did it on Thursday. I have class tomorrow night, and I intend to ask them about it.
Oh, you're going to be there. What's the average age of your students?
In their probably early 20s.
They know Ginuwine, especially.
Yeah, I'm sure, but they're going to be upset because they can't get in on this ticket thing.
Oh man, tell them to fly out.
Yeah, they'll come up to Boston. We'll see.
Come up to Boston. If they win tickets, they can come up to Boston and hang out with us. But again, John David, we've been posting a lot of John David's videos of him, just, you know, different shows, different voices. But, you know, he's calling in here right now, and he's in rehearsal. So I'm pretty sure his voice status is on point. So I'm gonna turn it over for a little bit here and let John David give you guys a little taste of what's gonna happen on November 17th. Let's do this, John.
Okay, hold on. me. Okay, I'm ready. Long ago, and oh, so far away, I fell in love with you before the second show. Oh, and your guitar, and you sound so sweet and clear, but you're not really here. It's just the radio. Oh, see, don't you remember you told me you love me, baby? You said you'll be coming back this way again. baby, 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 oh, baby, yeah, I love you. I really do. Ooh.
And I know they're tuned in upstairs. I know we've got some people in the chat. We're actually at 550 people reached for tonight's show on Facebook Live. Got 36 people viewing with us tonight. Good stuff. Jon David hanging out with us. He's going to be opening up for Ginuwine on November 17th at the Shaw Center. Actually, it's the Concrete Entertainment Complex at the Shaw Center. It's a Darryl Wright Concrete Entertainment Promotions event. Tickets are still available, but they're going fast. And I know next week, Darryl, when these guys all get here in town, I know that Darryl is going to be doing a big radio push, radio promotional tour, getting these guys out there to promote and get this show going. And like I said, you don't want to be left out. You know, and I don't want to. You know what? And I know originally originally Drew Hill was supposed to come to the show, and things happened. Their show is going to be on Saturday night, but you know what? I'm just going to let people know this is the show you want to be at.
If I may, because I got to get back to rehearsal centers. But
yes.
If I just give a push, we already know what Ginuwine's going to do. He's a legend. He's already proven his point. All right. So you already know you're getting your money's worth just with him alone. Mm-hmm. Then you got the lovely Shay Williams, and she, you just look her up. Look her up if you don't know. Just look her up. Mm. And then if I can just toot my horn a little bit, give a little beat action, Sinister. Then comes Big Daddy Smith from that. All right, so that's just a little taste of what it's hard for me to boast on myself. But I just want people to know the level of work that's going into the show to make sure they have a good time. So y'all out there, y'all listening, get your tickets. Get your VIP tickets. It's going to be a bomb show. We got my man Sinister. He's listen, Brockton, stand up. We about to make it happen.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good show, and I'm so glad that when Darryl was looking around for this, you know, for this event and stuff, you know, he reached out to me, and I'm, again, like with Silk, I'm just very proud to be involved with Darryl, and I know Darryl's trying to do big things. He's looking to do these type of shows cross country, so you know this is a big deal. And, you know, he's also looking to do other type shows. These 90s R&B shows are hit, but I actually told Darryl, I'm like, hey, you know, 90s rock music, a lot of people go to these clubs for these 90s rock shows, and if you can get some of these 90s groups that people would love to see up close and personal in a club, you know, like a you know, a nice VIP atmosphere, you would definitely do it. So I'd like to see him even you know, attempt to do some types of shows like that. You know, that's some great stuff right there.
Yeah.
And you know what? I thank you, man, for calling in. But before we get out of here with you, plug all your social media before we get out of here, man, with you.
It's very simple. It's all at Jon David Show, at JONDAVIDSHOW, at Jon David Show. Do not put an H in my name. It is not JOHN. It is John, Jon, the real John. I didn't mean to get all excited there. I got a little worked up. I'm going to tone it back a little bit. At Jon David Show, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the whole 9 yards. I'll see y'all on the web, and I will see y'all on the 17th.
Yeah, now you know what? Chicken Alfredo and deep fried Oreos, man.
That's
coming
really
at you.
What I'm going for. Like, if I can be honest, that's really what I'm going there for. Chicken Alfredo and the deep fried Oreos. The concept is like a byproduct to get me to the deep fried Oreos. So, you know what I mean? Listen, I ain't too proud to beg. Okay? I think I proved that.
Well, I thank you for calling in. I know rehearsals is busy for you, and I know this is a big show for you, and I know you're real happy about doing this. You're honored. And you know what? I'm glad that you just hit me up and said you wanted to call into this show. And you know what? I appreciate you.
I told you I would. I said I got to make it happen for my man Sinister.
There you go, man. So I'm going to let you go back and rip it up in the studio.
All right, man. Y'all take it easy.
Thanks, John.
All right, man. That was Jon David calling in. He's going to be here, as I said, November 17th. Ginuwine in the house. Shay Williams, Concrete Promotions at the Concrete Entertainment Complex at the Shaw Center, November 17th, 21 plus. We actually have a ticket giveaway. Rob, what'd you think of the person who submitted the video?
I haven't been able to see it yet.
Okay, we got a guy that was here in Brockton. He actually submitted a video of him singing his song as to why he wants to take his lady to the Ginuwine concert. He pretty much sang lyrics to a Ginuwine song.
Well, that's the way to go. I like the idea of it. I've got to play it.
Angel Cosme, good stuff. Actually, we're going to be pushing to get more people to call in because there's going to be one male winner and one female winner, and no females have actually put their videos in yet. So I'm going to really be pushing for females to put those videos in and win these pair of tickets to see this show next Friday night, November 17th. And you know what's funny is how fast time does really fly, R-Squared. Here we are. We were talking about last year's shocker of an election. I remember us getting off the air, and I remember going to work, and I remember sitting in front of my TV at 1 a.m, and the election was still undecided. It was about 12:20 when those Clinton had the lead up until about 12:15 a.m. the next day. And once those Michigan votes came in, it was all down. Oh, no, maybe it was Ohio. It was all downhill from there. All of a sudden, that big surge of Trump supporters came in and pretty much took this election from the Democrats' hands. And from there on out, it's just been a roller coaster ride every day. Not even just on the internet, in the newspapers, in entertainment news. I don't think I've ever seen a media blitz for any president ever in the history of my life. Have I seen a president that has just been in the local and just in the public eye as Donald Trump has, whether it's positive, negative, or hilarious. Saturday Night Live had its biggest ratings ever, coming off its worst rating season almost ever, single-handedly with just, satiring Trump. And it looks like that this season this year is headed the same route. They actually took home an Emmy. I mean, I don't know. Do you watch SNL at all, R-Squared?
Yeah, I do. I there are usually a couple of good skits to watch each week. So I like the political things. I like the news. I can do without about half the show.
Now, for those people who complain about SNL, if you're a fan of Saturday Night Live, you obviously don't realize that Saturday Night Live has been tongue-in-cheek, and they've been involved with political satire from day one. And a lot of people don't even realize you've got a couple of people who are high-ups in political standings. Al Franken. Al Franken was one of the second groups of people who came through as an SNL comedian.
Yeah, he was a writer for the show for many years, and every so often he would do a skit. Most of the time he was a writer behind the scenes, but he did a lot of their political stuff in the 70s, late 70s and 80s. He had this thing that he did where he drew the electoral map without, just from scratch on just a blank piece of paper with a pen. It's amazing, the shape of all the states and everything. It was a really good skit. And then during the Gulf War, he did a couple of good satirical things. But yeah, he's been around for a long time and then decided to do something more serious with his life. And, has been a pretty vocal senator from Minnesota for many years now.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize these things when you talk about these senators and people who have these backgrounds, from, when people were complaining about Trump being a reality TV show. And, the first thing that people were saying, how can we put a reality TV guy? I mean, what are you talking about? I'm like, Ronald Reagan, the president, he was an actor. This is just actors and actresses and people that are celebs have been in there for a long time. Senator John Thompson, he was in Die Hard too. You know what I'm saying? There's so many people out there. Minnesota, we've got a legendary professional wrestler, Jesse Ventura, who was running that area up there. So I mean, you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, governor of California. Come on now. I get what people were upset about, but again, be informed, know your politics. Donald Trump isn't the first guy to come from that cloth of entertainment to take a high seat such as, I mean, he's the president. Well, I would still say Reagan was an actor, so I would still say Reagan would be that first guy to take that seat that was from that celebrity stardom. You know, and Ronald Reagan was a pretty big actor. He wasn't no slouch as an actor. Ronald Reagan was a known guy. You know, he had a lot of these westerns, and Win One for the Gipper was the famous, you know, thing that they had for him. So we've got all this stuff going on. Is there anything you want to touch base on this week? Because we still haven't been able to get Ken in, and Ken did say he was out of town. Oh, I lost you again. Oh, he's going to take his headset off.
I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, no, we got to figure that out. We'll get that taken care of.
What I was saying is, with Ronald Reagan, the big difference was, you know, he was a decent actor. He had a decent acting career. Some of the famous movies that seemed to follow him forever, like Bedtime for Bonzo and Win One for the Gipper and all that. Mm-hmm. But you know, he didn't just all of a sudden run for president. He got involved in politics, ran for governor of California, served 2 terms. You know, ran for president and lost, and then ran for president and won. So he had made a pretty full transition from acting to politics. Granted, governor of California was a pretty big first step, but he had a lot of people around helping him. And so it was a very different pathway than what President Trump did.
Correct, yes.
He didn't have that group of people, and he didn't get sort of a slow start. He went right for president. And, you know, his campaign was a reality show and his presidency is a reality show, you know, for better or for worse. That's the style he's taking. I mean, it has nothing to do with his policy at this point, mm-hmm. not in this discussion. It's just the tact he's taking. And, you know, the media created him. You know, for all of his attacks on the media, the funny thing is he won the primary and he won the general election because of the media. So it's quite interesting that now he makes the media his enemy now that he's in office. But you know, it's a whole different story. It's interesting to watch, as you say.
You know, it's funny too because I go back to 1 year ago today, and I remember when he won. It was about 2 a.m, and I'm sitting there watching him take his speech, and it was a surreal moment for me because I'm looking at him up on stage, and over his right shoulder, I see Omarosa, and right there, I think that moment, I felt. This is where this country is headed, and I was dead right with my thought when I just seen him on stage, and I saw Omarosa up there, and I'm like, where are we headed right now? Because you have a reality TV show star and one of the worst, most single-handed reality show villains up here on the biggest platform of political media in Omarosa, and I was expecting Omarosa to take over the reins when Kelly Conway disappeared. But then Omarosa actually showed up on, I forget what TV show she showed up on, and they annihilated her too. And she actually lost her cool, and she actually
she tried to help out on a show, but the problem is she's just such an uninformed person, at least regarding political issues. She may be good in business, but political-wise, she was a terrible spokesperson for the president and his campaign. She just wasn't informed, and so that went very, very poorly for her, and that was the end of her political aspirations.
She got destroyed, and you know she was actually due to be on I want to say The View, and there was something that happened backstage or before in the green room or something, and then she ended up not going on The View or something like that. So I think they put her back on the back burner. Kellyanne Conway, we used to see her a ton, and then she started taking hits left and right, and she was losing her composure. It got to this point where, and here's the thing about this Trump thing that they do. You can see it coming a mile away when people are almost ready to be sent packing. They stop being misinformed, and it's like they throw them out to the wolves. We saw this with Sean Spicer. Sean Spicer was that guy, and then all of a sudden he's up there, and then it was almost like they were like, don't tell him nothing, let him try to fend for himself. We're getting ready to get rid of this guy. You saw it with Sean Spicer. It was like 2 weeks before Sean Spicer went away. He was taking a beating from the media, and he was pretty much like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm not being told. And then there was this whole thing with him trying to hide behind the bush one time, and and we see this. I mean, did you notice it yourself with these people? Like, you've seen it coming a mile away.
Oh yeah, you can. It's an interesting playbook that they use because they put these people out there and rely upon them, like they did Sean Spicer from day one. They forced him to tell stories about the inaugural crowd photos, and that's embarrassing for a guy like Spicer that had somewhat of a career before this. Not as big as being the presidential spokesperson, but certainly a big career. And now he's forced to be part of this reality show experiment. And then what happens is, with Sean Spicer and others, when they've decided that they've run their cycle, they all of a sudden block them from the inner conversations, and then they throw them out there to do these things where they don't know the answers to questions because they're no longer part of the inner conversations, or they actually give them misinformation to let them sort of hang themselves. And then once that happens that they're going to be gone. They'll be fired or asked to resign within a few days, if not a week at most, after those incidents. And you've seen it a few times where people do that. There's no loyalty. There's really no dignity in the way that they do that. But, I think anybody who's part of this organization knows it at this point. And, you'll see it coming if it happens to you. But there are certainly people who are still willing to join the team there. Which I guess, we want the president to have good people around him. It can only make things better. But, it'll be interesting to see how many people continue to want to serve the more that this track record goes.
Yeah, you saw that with Kellyanne Conway. She was kind of thrown under the bus. Her husband was actually due to get a big position in this cabinet at the White House. And once they threw her under the bus and stuff hit the fan, and then this Russian stuff started, Kellyanne Conway's husband actually told Trump, "You know what? I'm all done. I'm not taking any positions. I'm all done." And then there were a lot of people who they didn't want to start opening up their books, because once this stuff with the Russians started and all these investigations that are going on right now, they're looking at these people with a fine-tooth comb. They've got to show their financials, and we're up to like 9 people now who are being questioned. I actually watched Meet the Press. I think it was. I saw this Sunday while we were in the hotel. Meet the Press they were saying there's 9 people who are actually being questioned, but there's only 3 that the mainstream media really knows about that's being questioned. And they're saying that, they said that everybody is cooperating. Everybody's handing over what they're being asked of to hand over. But one of the rumors that did come out of this, and it's pretty kind of scary, Manafort and these guys, they're all being linked to what we thought early on. They're saying organized crime. This actually may have nothing to do with the actual election. This is going to go back to organized crime. And if we all remember during the election when they said that Trump was being investigated by the FBI and the CIA with Russian connections, was because they've been investigating Trump Towers years before this even all started, because of the Russians setting up base with organized crime out of Trump Towers and fixing boxing matches and things of such sort. I'm going to ask you this, R-Squared, if they can get our president connected to any of these, because remember, Trump Towers was the site of many boxing matches over these years. If the fix was in and they can connect Trump, because Trump did own a casino, which he dumped before he went to run this campaign, if they can connect Trump to organized crime and fixing fights and things like that, what would that do to his presidency? Do you think he would have to step down, or would he just let the court process go through?
No, I mean, the one thing about Donald Trump is he'll never let the court process go through. He thinks at the moment that he's, can outsmart people or outspend people by, putting together a dream team of his own to prevent anything from ever going to court. And I think the minute he smelled that he could lose, he'll find a back door to quietly exit and then claim some kind of victory or conspiracy against him or something like that. He'll never actually take the fall. But it's interesting. I don't know, I guess what we should all want is just that the truth comes out. That's really what we should want. Nothing more than that, nothing less than that. But it's interesting, with the organized crime that you talk about, what we're seeing is, like you said, everybody getting excited because of possible indictments from the special counsel and everything. But right now, there's really nothing that's criminal that's related to the campaign or the election.
Right.
There are some things that are unethical. There are things that are troublesome. And in theory, if Congress wanted to, you could use some of that for an impeachment, but it's way premature to even think that there is grounds for that. There's people who've been screaming for it for months and are excited about it, but really there's no basis for it at the moment. Not that I think he should be in office for all the reasons that we've discussed previously, mental stability and others. But as far as the special counsel stuff goes, it's interesting. Now, for many, many years, they talked about the Suns with their interviews in Forbes magazine and Golf Digest about the Russian investment money that comes in. Well, that's been the real key. Because of all of Donald Trump's bankruptcies, U.S. banks aren't willing to invest in him. They stopped being willing to invest in a long time. And he had to go to places like Russia just for business. Forget the election, the campaign, and anything to do with politics or our government. It had to do with the fact that that was the only place he could go for investment, which was Russian investment, whether it was organized crime based or not. You had, the Russian oligarchs that had this money. And you saw that he was laundering money by these fake business deals, real estate deals where they would buy a piece of property at 4 or 5 times the value of the property because that's how they were, laundering money and getting in connections with his business. Now, whether or not that ever is going to have a connection to the campaign, right now there's not really a real nexus for that. It just goes to the man that we elected president, and we should have known that. The media did not cover it in as much detail as they should have. Again, the media created this man, and I don't know why he criticizes them so much, because they protected him from this type of review. I could have seen any kind of show, a 60 Minutes, a Dateline, a 2020, any of those type of shows, a special thing on his businesses with the bankruptcies and his, unscrupulous behavior with subcontractors where he terminates the contract and then, they have to agree to something and, all these different things. And it was briefly touched upon but never covered. And the biggest thing was this foreign investment in that, because, they now own significant properties through his businesses. So it's really been an interesting thing. But at the end of the day, this goes to the real estate community more so than it does to our politics or our elections. So I think people are premature in getting excited that this is going to lead to something. Maybe it will. There may be something else out there. But everything that the special counsel has uncovered so far has gone to previous business dealings and not really a threat to the election, even though we know that the Russians were attempting to play via Facebook and other social media.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. We talked about this stuff before. We talked about this stuff way back when the news had come out that the CIA and stuff was in Trump Towers, looking at wiretaps because they were worried about this whole thing with rigging fights and things like that. So, you make a great point. I'm glad you were able to give us some type of information on that. Now, we got our picks at 7:48. Before we get into our picks, today's the day, everyone. Today's the big release. The Xbox One X was released today. Usually I'm that guy that gets his game system right off the bat. I was actually with Major Nelson 2 weeks ago. Real ecstatic. Ken was actually pissed at me last Friday night because I actually jumped on the brand new Call of Duty World War II and was broadcasting live. And games have come so far because I started out on a Commodore 64 and a Radio Shack TRS 80. And yes, I do, Rob. I do have the list of the teams that are playing this weekend. I'm going to get into that. And I sit here and I look at Call of Duty Friday night when I sat down to play it, and I actually shared the video. I don't know if Rob was able to catch that video of the gameplay of the Call of Duty.
Yes, I did.
But the game opens
Impressive.
up. It opens up with us, storming Normandy Beach, and we're taking fire, and I'm sitting there just blown away, and it's just seamless now from video gameplay to actual gameplay. It's just seamless. And you have to storm the beach and find cover, and then I have to take my banger and blow a hole into the iron wall so I can get to the bunkers. And then when I get to the bunkers, the guy that's with me, he gets stabbed. And it's just the graphics just visually was just impressive. The speed of the game on multiplayer is just unbelievable. They have this new war mode, which you can have up to 40-something people in the game at one time. But guys, if you're playing this game and you're used to playing Call of Duty, I got to say something. Multiplayer used to be run around and kill everybody and build up your points. This new war mode objective It's not about running around and getting your kills. When it tells you the objective is to take the fuel depot and blow up the fuel depot, we have to work together to blow up the fuel depot. Don't worry about getting your kills. It's objectives. And then if we take the fuel depot, you move on to the next objective, and then the next objective, and then you win the round. And a lot of these people, it's impressive because now it's a thinking game. It's not just run around and shoot. So I really like the aspect of that game. But the Xbox One X did come out today. Call of Duty came out on Friday. They're really pushing the 4K aspect of this with new TVs, and I'm really enthused to see what Xbox is going to do from here on out, headed into Christmas as far as sales go. So we've got that out today. We've got some big games. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles still making big noise. They traded for Jay Ajayi, and I believe he had a touchdown, didn't he, this weekend?
Yeah, they said they were going to use him sparingly just to get him integrated in the system, but he had a few carries and about 70-something yards and a touchdown. He made a really good first impression.
I'll take that. And if I'm the Eagles, like I said, when they made that grab, I was like, you know what? That's my pick for the NFC right there. Boom. They're the team to beat. So I'm going to get into these picks right now. It's 7:51. We're at week 10. Jesus, week 10. Patriots
Season's going fast.
Yeah, the Patriots are off their bye week this week. So we're going to have Seattle in Arizona this week. Who you like?
Well, I'll tell you, both teams looked pretty bad. That's become a pretty good rivalry. I don't know that Seattle's going to continue the slide that they're on. I'm going to have to go Seattle on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to take Seattle, too, this week. They had a really good game against the Texans the week before. They had a tough game last week. But I'm going to take Seattle this week, bouncing back in Arizona. We got Cincinnati in Tennessee.
I gotta go Tennessee. Cincinnati just looked terrible last week at Jacksonville. And, as Diesel pointed out, they just can't win on the road. So I'm taking Tennessee at home. Yeah,
we got Cleveland in Detroit. I'm going with Detroit, and I'm also taking Tennessee in that last game.
Yeah, and Detroit, that's a no. Cleveland's, who knows if they're going to win a game this year.
Yeah. Well, next big game, Green Bay taking on Chicago. Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers. This game is in Chicago. This is one of those games where Chicago always shows up to play when Green Bay comes to town. I like Chicago with a field goal.
Yeah, it's interesting. Green Bay, now that Hundley's gotten some playing time, they need to start winning. Chicago has not looked good this year, but you're right. They do come to play, and they're at home. I think I'm going to go with Chicago with you, but I don't know.
We'll see. We got our Chargers, LA Chargers in Jacksonville. Look, San Diego lost a tough one here in New England, but they are winning some games. I'm going to have to take the Chargers over Jacksonville.
It's funny. I think the Chargers are doing a pretty decent job this season, but Jacksonville's been doing really well at home. Look at the way they just manhandled Cincinnati. I think I'm going to go with Jacksonville this week.
All right, cool. Minnesota and Washington. Washington's been up and down. They've had it tough. Minnesota's been the same way. Look, they're going into Washington. Washington's a tough place to play. My heart right now, I feel like Washington's going to take this game from Minnesota this weekend.
I was impressed the way Washington was able to shut down Seattle, shut down their offense, last week. But I think Minnesota's looking too good. I think it's going to be their week.
Okay, we got New Orleans heading into Buffalo. Now, if this game was in New Orleans, I'd probably be leaning towards New Orleans and Drew Brees in that Superdome. But, look, Buffalo's been real tough at home. They're playing some good ball. I'm going to take Buffalo in this game.
I'm going to take Buffalo also. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be for the game, and I think that's going to make a lot of the difference. If they have more seasonable weather, New Orleans can, have a little bit of trouble with that. But I think you're right. Buffalo looks good at home. I'm going with the Bills.
Jets in Tampa Bay. Jets are in Tampa Bay. Like I said, Tampa has not panned out the way that I thought they would pan out. The Jets have been up and down. They've been, talk of firing the coach. Their locker room was kind of divided for a little while there. But Tampa's just not doing good things. Jameis Winston went down last weekend again with another shoulder injury. I'm going to have to take the Jets in Tampa this weekend.
This is another toss-up. That Detroit game was the Green Bay-Chicago game was a toss-up, and this is another toss-up for me. I struggle with it. I think I'm going to go Tampa just because they're at home, and I think Fitzpatrick wants to play.
Good job. Pittsburgh in Indianapolis. Jacoby Brissett has been playing good ball. It's just that they've still got some other injuries on that team. They're losing some games that they should be winning. Pittsburgh, again, they're up and down too. But Pittsburgh has been winning solidly. I'm going to take Pittsburgh in Indy in this game.
Yeah, I've got to go with the Steelers. They're just too strong of a team, even on the road.
And we got a next game coming up. Houston Texans against the Rams. Houston playing some good ball despite the injuries that they have. But that Rams offensive line is what the talk has been, providing a lot of protection, able to get the ball off. Their running game, I'm going to have to go with the Rams at home on this one.
Yeah, I've got to take the Rams. I think they're a much stronger team. I mean, they manhandled my Giants this week. It was terrible to watch, but at the same time, it wasn't surprising. So Rams are looking good. I think they're the real deal this year.
Yep. We got Atlanta with Dallas coming to town. Ezekiel Elliott did play last week, but I believe there's a suspension kick in this week.
The courts, this is the whole problem with this thing. If the NFL is supposed to have the responsibility to govern itself, then the courts can't keep jumping in every week and changing the rules in the middle because you never know what's going to happen. So I don't know if Ezekiel Elliott is ever going to serve the suspension or what's going to happen with that at the end of the day. Last week, we were told he was going to be suspended, so that affected our picks. This week, I'm going Dallas.
Okay, so you're going with Dallas. I think I'm going to go with Dallas, too. If it looks like he's still playing. He played last week. I think I'm going to take Dallas. I got to give a big shout-out to Luis Martins, who actually is listening in the chat. He's got a great business over there. Remax Synergy. He's a realtor. He's got some beautiful houses that he's puts up that are for sale here in the Brockton area. Some great stuff. So if you're looking for a home or a rental, you want to reach out at Luis Martins at Remax Synergy over there on I think they're on, I forget what street they're exactly on. I'll have to look that up and get that information for you guys. I'm looking at the picks here. I picked Dallas. We've got the Giants in San Francisco, and it's Pleasant Street is where his place is located. Giants in San Francisco. I'm going to let Oscar because Giants are his team.
Well, look, the good thing about this game is one of them has to win, and I suppose it could be a tie. That would be poetic justice if it ends in a tie because neither one of these teams wants to win this year. The Giants have the one win over Denver, which is still surprising. San Francisco, I don't know. It looks like both teams have just given up. The Giants just have nobody left, so that they couldn't play if they wanted to. And San Francisco, I think maybe they're trying to turn things around, and since they're in San Francisco, I got to go with the home team.
Jimmy Garoppolo is out there now. Look, I'm going to go with Jimmy. I'm going to give Jimmy that nod at home. Let's see what happens, and that's the only reason why I'm going that route. Next game, New England against Denver. This is a tough one for me because when New England goes out to Denver, they don't play the best ball ever. They've taken some major losses in Denver. The only reason why I'm going with New England in this game this week is because they're coming off the bye week. If they weren't coming off the bye week, I think I would have given the Pats an L. But the Pats are coming off a bye week. They're going to be well rested. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this Denver team. I got to go with New England on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. It was a close call because Denver's a tough place to play, and the Patriots just normally struggle there. But I have to believe that Belichick has them ready with the extended time to prepare. And I know you can't really prepare for the altitude until you get out there, but I'm still going to go with Patriots.
Well, knowing Kraft, I believe they actually may have flown out there. They would have left early since it was the bye week. Plus, there's another big story here that a lot of people may not know about. If you listen to this show and you're outside the Boston area, you may not know this, but there is a big story going around here. I don't know if it made it national, but there was this whole story regarding after the Garoppolo trade that Belichick and Brady's relationship was fractured and it's not what it used to be. And then some guy from ESPN reported that Brady was this and that about Garoppolo being sent away. And Brady actually came out on EEI and said, no, that's not true. We don't know where you're getting your information from. Belichick actually got up on the podium this week and called, I want to say what network it was. He called them fake news, and that you know how that is when Belichick says something like that. That's like everybody loves that. So I think this game here, it's not just about coming off that bye week and coming off that win. This team also knows they got to come out and win this game and shut everybody here in Boston, in the New England area, up and let them know there's nothing wrong with this locker room. This locker room's running the way that it always runs. And, you know, these fake stories, you know, just to get people trumped up, it just ain't happening. So I'm going with New England in a big way. Miami and Carolina. Man, Miami, I'm still shaking my head over them giving away J.J. And they've got some crucial games that were left on their season. I got to give this game to Carolina. I'm still shaking my head and trying to figure out why are they just giving up the season already? I just don't understand, man.
Yeah, there's got to be more to it. They haven't covered it down here in the level of detail you would think, and so I haven't seen any insight into it. Other than the fact that people think that they weren't serious about trying to make a playoff run. They're more about rebuilding. And maybe that's a smart move. But the thing with the Panthers, remember, they traded away Kelvin Benjamin, their number one receiver, too. So, both teams look like they're trying to rebuild for next year. However, I think Carolina has some more weapons. Funchess has been stepping up to replace Benjamin. I'm going with the Panthers.
Yeah, I'm going with the Panthers, too. And like I said, I'm still shaking my head with whatever went down there in Miami. Again, the Patriots are on a roll. But, again, every team every week is one injury away. Like I just posted last week, I posted a picture and said that after this season, it's going to be support groups for fantasy football GMs because we had a record-breaking 7 trades are squared in our fantasy league this week. 7 trades for draft picks because the pickings of quarterback is very minuscule out there. And it's just been a tough season overall for fantasy football owners just across the league, and my heart goes out to these guys. And, you're playing in a league where you're going to win some big money and your star quarterback goes down to an injury. And now that money that you were looking at is going bye-bye. So it's a tough one. So 8 o'clock, another fast show in the books. Had a great wedding this weekend. I got to give a big shout-out before we head out of here to Mike and Megan, who were on their honeymoon. They had a great weekend for their marriage in Bristol, Rhode Island. It was a great time. I got to give a big shout-out to my brother, Kevin Hayes. I spent the weekend with my brother this weekend. Got to see Janet Jackson last night. It was a good time. R-Squared, I'm going to let him say his goodbyes and shout-outs. And, hey, we got to wish Ken the best of luck and find out where the hell he is. And he said he was out of town. We just want to make sure he gets back safe and sound.
Yeah, safe travels to our co-host, Ken, and another good show. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks, Keith, for all you do to make this thing happen every week. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. And you know what? We've got the big elections going on here in Brockton. I've been watching my Facebook chat, and I'm not getting any numbers yet because the polls here in Brockton actually close at 8. So we're probably not going to see anything till about 9 o'clock here in Brockton. So hopefully we'll have some numbers come in. Hopefully people got out and voted. Just real quick, I just got to mention that. You just get out and vote, people. This has been a tough year as it was regarding political conversation. And again, everybody wants to spin all these tragedies on Donald Trump. It's not Donald Trump again. We talked about this at the beginning of the show, and I just want to say this as we close out. Mental health is a real serious issue here around the world, not just this country, but around the world. And first of all, we need to recognize mental health problems, and we need to address it. Stop hiding it. Stop trying to fix it on your own. If you feel a family member or somebody is suffering from something, if you can get them to help, try to get them to help. I've heard people that have fought court systems to get their families the help they need so we don't have tragedies such as what we've witnessed this past week and over this last year. So I don't know if you want to add anything real quick to that.
Yeah, real quick. I agree with everything you said, mental health and otherwise, but also the importance of voting. I mean, that's what makes a democracy what it is. And if you don't exercise your right to vote, then you're not fulfilling a big responsibility of being a citizen. However, the biggest thing is make sure you're an informed voter. You know, I have friends who vote for an array of candidates, not always the same as I vote for, but we respect each other because we're all informed. We know why we're voting for the candidates we support, and we know why we're opposed to certain other candidates. So whoever you vote for, go ahead and do that, but make sure you know why. Don't believe what you see on television. Read a little something, and really make sure that you're voting for the person that reflects the views that you believe are the right way for your community or for the country.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I know there was an election going on here, and someone was taking credit for something that was done because the city had received grant money. And I was like, whoa. You can't take credit for that. This was received by grant. This was done because of grant money. You have absolutely nothing to do with what was done here. So people, be informed. Know what's going on in your community, because that does happen. People do take credit for things that they had absolutely nothing to do with it, and it happens all the time. So, like he said, R-Squared said, be informed. Know what you need to know. Other than that, I got to thank Jon David for taking time out of his rehearsal and calling in. That's I love that. I love when guys like Jon David and MMA fighters and stuff, they take their time out. I'm just a guy. I'm not nobody important. I'm just this guy. But I'm blessed to have people who, if I reach out, they reach right out to me, and they do things such as that. And, again, November 17th is the show. And all I got to say is, hey, SpongeBob, do me a favor.
Well, see you next Tuesday.
Thanks for tuning in to the booth at Whoobazoo.com. Please make sure to tune in for more booth next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. New York Eastern Standard Time. Become a fan on their Facebook page and check out their podcast on iTunes. The Booth is hosted by Sinister One, Z-Man, and KENDIESEL.
I've got to start hanging out with friends that are a little more intelligent and understand politics and stuff. It's just that I'm up on this level up here, and all my friends are down here. Me, nah. You guys, nah. Maybe a little more down in here. Screw you guys, I'm going home.